The first thing Hannah noticed about working nights was the quiet. Austin didn't really sleep, but it softened after midnight. The traffic thinned, the cicadas took over, and the city lights outside her small rental house dimmed into a hazy glow. From her spare bedroom, now her office, Hannah logged into her company's systems every night at 10 p.m., headset on, laptop humming, coffee mug steaming beside a cheap succulent she kept forgetting to name. At 28, this wasn't how she imagined her life. A year earlier she'd been sharing a downtown apartment with her boyfriend, planning weekend trips and arguing over throw pillows. Then the breakup happened, sudden, brutal, and public. He'd cheated with someone from his CrossFit gym, and Hannah had learned about it the same way everyone else did, through Instagram. The night shift was her escape. Fewer people, fewer conversations, fewer reminders of the life she'd lost. She worked tech support for a national software company, password resets, server tickets, angry clients who didn't understand two-factor authentication. The night crew was small, scattered across the country. Faces she saw only in little Zoom squares during mandatory check-ins at the top of each shift. There was Priya in New Jersey, always wrapped in a cardigan, sipping chai. Marco in Phoenix, perpetually sunburned even at midnight. And then there was Ethan. Ethan kept his camera on but rarely spoke. He looked normal enough, early 30s maybe, pale, brown hair that always fell into his eyes, a neutral expression that never quite changed. His background was generic, beige wall, framed print, nothing personal. The first comment came during her second week on nights. "Nice plants," Ethan said suddenly, his voice cutting through the low chatter of the call. "Did you just water them?" Hannah blinked. She glanced down at her desk. The succulent soil was still dark.
Yeah,
she said, laughing awkwardly. "Trying not to kill this one." Ethan nodded, as if confirming something. "Looks healthy." She shrugged it off. People made weird small talk. It was late. Everyone was tired. The next comment came a few nights later. "That's a new mug," Ethan said. "Green suits you better than the blue one." Hannah froze for half a second before forcing a smile. "Guess I need to rotate my mugs more." No one else reacted. Marco was checking his phone. Priya was muted. The meeting moved on. Still, something about it lingered. Over the next few weeks, Hannah settled into a routine. She slept during the day, grocery shopped at odd hours, and relied heavily on Amazon for everything from snacks to phone chargers. That's how she met Jamal. He was her overnight delivery driver. Or at least, he seemed to be. Every time she checked the app at 2 or 3 in the morning, there was the same name. Same photo. Same knock, 2 quick taps, then a pause. The first time she answered the door half awake, he smiled politely and said, "Night shift too, huh?" She laughed. Unfortunately. After that, it became a kind of quiet joke. Sometimes he'd leave the package by the door if she didn't answer fast enough, but more often than not she caught him before he walked away. "You good tonight?" he'd ask. "Surviving," she'd reply. Jamal was maybe mid-30s, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of calm presence that made people feel safe without knowing why. They never talked long, just a few words exchanged in the glow of her porch light, but Hannah realized she looked forward to seeing him. It was during one of those exchanges, about a month into her night shifts, that things changed. She opened the door around 1:45 a.m., pulling her hoodie tighter against the warm Texas air. Jamal handed her a small box and hesitated. "Hey," he said slowly. "This might sound weird, but, has anyone been bothering you?" Her stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" He glanced past her, down the quiet street. "There's been a car parked across from your place." "Same one. Black sedan. No lights on. I've seen it the last 3 nights." Hannah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the night air. "Maybe it's a neighbor?" Jamal shook his head. "I know the regular cars on this block now. That one doesn't move. Just sits there. Tonight I saw a guy inside. Binoculars. Her heart slammed against her ribs. That's probably nothing, she said, though her voice wavered. Jamal didn't look convinced. I didn't want to freak you out. But I figured you should know. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing hard. The house suddenly felt too quiet. Too exposed. During the next Zoom check-in, Hannah found herself watching Ethan's face instead of the screen. When she shifted in her chair, his eyes flicked slightly to the side. When she reached for her water bottle, he smiled faintly. You moved your desk, he said casually. Her blood ran cold. No, I didn't, she said. Ethan tilted his head. Huh. Must be the angle. After the call ended, Hannah did something she'd never bothered with before. She covered her webcam with a piece of black tape. That night, she barely slept. The following evening, Jamal knocked again, but this time he didn't smile. Hannah, he said quietly. That car's back. She stepped onto the porch, scanning the street. The sedan sat under a tree, windows dark. I called Amazon security, Jamal continued. They told me to call the police if I thought it was a threat. I did. Her throat went dry. What did they say? They said to keep my distance. But, listen. He lowered his voice. I did a little digging. The plates are rental. Out of state. Hannah felt like the ground was slipping away beneath her feet. That's when Jamal pulled out his phone. I hope you don't think I'm crossing a line, he said. But I took pictures. And I checked something else. He showed her the screen. On it were screenshots, Zoom call captures. Her Zoom calls. From an angle that could only be inside her house. Her chair. Her desk. Her plants. Time-stamped. Saved. Hannah's knees buckled. Jamal caught her arm, steadying her. I traced the IP, he said. I used to do IT before delivery work. The access logs point to one user. Ethan. He's been watching you. Recording you. 4 months. A sob tore out of her chest. Oh my God. There's more, Jamal said gently. I checked flight trackers. He landed at Austin Bergstrom tonight. Hannah stared at him, horror crashing over her in waves. He's not just watching anymore, Jamal said. He's here. He glanced toward the black sedan. And I think he's planning to come inside. Hannah's phone buzzed in her hand. A message notification. From Ethan. You left your camera off tonight. I liked seeing you better before. Jamal didn't hesitate. Grab your keys, he said firmly. Your wallet. Your laptop. Nothing else. What about now, he said. We're leaving. As Hannah ran back into the house, heart pounding, she realized something terrifying. If Jamal hadn't noticed that car. If he hadn't cared enough to say something. She might not have lived through the night. Hannah's hands shook so badly she dropped her keys twice before finally grabbing them off the kitchen counter. The house that had felt like a refuge just hours earlier now felt like a trap, windows glowing, curtains too thin, every corner suddenly suspicious. Jamal stood near the doorway, watching the street through the narrow gap in the blinds, his posture tense but controlled. Laptop? He asked. She nodded, slinging her backpack over one shoulder, shoving the computer inside without shutting it down. Her work headset dangled uselessly from the zipper. Her phone buzzed again. Ethan. Don't panic. I just want to talk. Hannah let out a broken sound somewhere between a laugh and a cry. He's insane. Don't answer, Jamal said. Block him. She did, but even after blocking, the silence felt louder than the messages had. Like the calm before something snapped. They slipped out through the back door instead of the front. Jamal guided her quickly, quietly, down the side of the house to his delivery van parked a block away. Every shadow felt alive. Hannah kept expecting to hear footsteps, a door creak, a voice calling her name like it already knew her. Once inside the van, Jamal locked the doors and started the engine. Only then did Hannah realize she was crying hard enough that her chest hurt. "You're safe right now," he said, not looking at her, eyes scanning the mirrors. "We'll go somewhere public first." "Where?" she whispered. 24-hour gas station. Cameras. Lights. As they pulled away, Hannah glanced back toward her house. The black sedan's headlights flicked on. "Oh my God," she breathed. Jamal accelerated, calm but fast. The sedan followed. The gas station was only 5 minutes away, but it felt like an hour. Hannah's phone buzzed again, unknown number this time. She didn't answer. When Jamal pulled under the bright fluorescent lights of the station, the sedan slowed, then drove past. Hannah slumped back in her seat, shaking violently now that the adrenaline was draining out of her. Inside the station, Jamal bought her water and made her sit at a small plastic table near the cashier. He called the police again, his voice firm, controlled, different from the casual tone she was used to hearing at her door. "This is no longer suspicious activity," he said. "This is an active stalking case with cyber intrusion and imminent threat." Within minutes, patrol cars arrived. Hannah explained everything through tears, the Zoom comments, the webcam, the messages, the car. Jamal handed over his screenshots, logs, and photos. One of the officer's expressions hardened as he scrolled. "This is solid," the officer said. "You did the right thing." They escorted Hannah back to her house, not to stay, but to retrieve essentials under police presence. The black sedan was gone. Inside, officers swept the house. In the spare bedroom, an officer peeled back the tape from Hannah's webcam. "There's more here," he said. Behind the desk, taped beneath the surface, was a small device no bigger than a thumb drive. Another camera. Hardwired. Hannah felt sick. "That's not all," another officer said from the hallway. "We found signs of forced entry. He's been inside before." The realization hit her harder than anything else. Ethan hadn't just watched her. He'd been there. They didn't let Hannah stay. She spent the night at a nearby hotel under police watch, Jamal waiting in the lobby until sunrise despite her insisting he go home. "I'm not leaving until I know you're okay," he said simply. By morning, detectives had pieced together the rest. Ethan wasn't just a creepy coworker. He'd been fired from a previous job for harassment that never made it to court. He used unsecured webcams, phishing links disguised as company updates, and remote access exploits to spy on women he fixated on. Hannah wasn't his first target, but she was the first who'd had someone watching out for her. They arrested him that afternoon at his rental car drop-off. He had binoculars, zip ties, duct tape, and printed photos of Hannah's house. The trial took months. Hannah testified via video, her voice shaking but steady enough. Jamal testified too, his logs and evidence forming the backbone of the case. Ethan pled guilty. The night Hannah got the call that he'd been sentenced, 12 years federal, she sat on her new apartment balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching Austin glow in the distance. She'd moved. New building. New security. New routine. Day shift now. Jamal sat beside her, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. "You didn't have to stay friends," she said quietly. "After everything." He shrugged. "Didn't feel right to disappear." She smiled softly. "You saved my life." He shook his head. "You saved yourself." "I just noticed." Below them, the city hummed alive, busy, unaware of how close she'd come to vanishing into someone else's obsession. Hannah took a breath and, for the first time in months, felt something like peace. The quiet no longer scared her. It finally felt earned. Hannah didn't realize how deeply fear had rewired her until one ordinary evening weeks later, when she caught herself flinching at the sound of a neighbor's footsteps in the hallway. She stood there, grocery bags cutting into her palms, and understood that surviving wasn't the same as healing. So she did the hard things. She started therapy, even when it meant talking about moments she wanted to erase, the realization that someone had been watching her sleep, the guilt she felt for not noticing sooner, the shame that whispered it was her fault for living alone, for trusting technology, for being quiet. Her therapist helped her name it for what it was, violation, not weakness. She returned to work slowly, with accommodations, a new team, and strict security protocols. Zoom cameras stayed covered unless absolutely required. Company IT ran audits inspired directly by her case. Quietly, policies changed. Jamal stayed in her life, not as a hero, not as a savior, just as someone steady. They grabbed tacos after his shifts, laughed about mundane things, sat in comfortable silence. He never pushed, never tried to turn what happened into something romantic or dramatic. He let her set the pace. One afternoon, months later, Hannah received an email from a woman in another state. Then another. And another. Word had spread, through court transcripts, through internal company channels, through online forums where women shared warnings late at night. Hannah realized something slowly, painfully, and then powerfully. By speaking up, she hadn't just saved herself. She'd stopped a pattern. She began volunteering with a nonprofit focused on digital safety and stalking prevention. She spoke, not loudly, not theatrically, but honestly. About how danger doesn't always announce itself. About how intuition matters. About how community saves lives. On the anniversary of the night Jamal pulled her out of the house, Hannah returned to her old street for the first time. The house looked smaller than she remembered. Less powerful. Just wood and windows and shadows. She didn't feel fear. She felt closure. Later that night, back on her balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly, Hannah turned to Jamal and said, "I used to think independence meant doing everything alone." He nodded, waiting. "Now I think it means knowing when to let someone stand next to you." He smiled, not triumphant, not relieved. Just present. The quiet settled around them again. But this time, it wasn't empty. It was safe.